tensions have gripped Maputo, Mozambique's capital, since the elections in October. Frelimo's candidate Daniel Chapo, who's 47, is set to succeed President FilipeNyusi as Mozambique's fifth president after winning more than 70% of the votes. Dr. Adriano Nuvunga is the director at the Center for Democracy and Human Rights in Mozambique and joins us to just share a bit more of what's happening on the ground. Doctor, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. Let's start with just the situation on the ground. How is it currently?
The situation is tense on the ground. It reminds you of the COVID times, lockdowns during COVID times, where the military were raiding neighborhoods to impose the state of emergency. So that's what we are seeing in the ground. We see military moving around to remove the burning tires. We see military also positioning themselves in the hotspots of Maputo, arguably as they are preparing to repel the demonstrators tomorrow. But in some areas, it reminds of war zone, where vehicles have been banned, including police stations been attacked, as the people they are trying to respond to the heavy-handed response from the police that is tearing tear gas, is shooting with rubber bullets, is shooting with live ammunition, and resulting in the killing of 30 people and wounding more than 500 people as they speak.
We've just heard from one activist that at least 16 people have lost their lives. Do you have a number at this point?
The total number of people that have lost their lives, including the 2 that were murdered in Maputo, are 25 people that have been killed throughout the nation.
Honestly, very worrying figure. What has government had to say about this? Have they perhaps indicated or tried to defend, to say that these people perhaps were resisting arrest? What have they had to say about this figure of 25 who've lost their lives?
There is no room for the government to try to put the blame on the victims, because social media live streaming, it has been showing police shooting to kill to demonstrators. So there is no room for that. And in fact, what we see is the police that is preparing further to violently repel people that are peacefully demonstrating, demanding not only electoral justice, but protesting for a better country that has been denied by corruption.
Is information free-flowing at this point? Because we understand there are also reports that some are struggling to actually access social media.
What I had to do in order to connect with you, you cannot imagine. I mean, access to internet is purposefully limited to enable the police to abuse, to violate, to shoot, to kill without the world knowing. So the intention for limiting access to internet, the use of social media, is to prevent the world from seeing the killing of innocent people in Mozambique, but also it is used as an instrument of control, because it is limiting access to internet, access to communication to the young people. And,
who would want to mobilize?
Mainly in the impoverished neighborhoods, which is where the most disappointment with Frelimo is, and where the young people, they are organizing themselves to come to march. So it's a form of a social and political apartheid, which is perpetrated by internet and communications providers, including Vodacom, which is a subsidiary of Vodafone. Can you imagine Vodafone denying access to communications, access to internet to the UK public? They cannot do that, but they can do here in Mozambique, in Africa, because we are not seen as citizens, we are seen as subjects of Frelimo.
We must certainly try to reach out to the network service providers to get their response to what is happening there insofar as the network concerns that you've raised. As for the opposition leader, we understand that Vano Monani has since fled. Is this the case? Because not so long ago, it was stated that he was in South Africa and he was the person that actually indicated that he survived an alleged attempt on his life even here in the country.
Yes, we learned that he was in South Africa, and we also learned that he had to flee South Africa because he was
almost assassinated.
But all we read in the media, which, if that is true, it is really unfortunate. Politicians in the region should be allowed to move freely. If there is a need for them to relocate to one country, the democratic dispensation of that country must allow them to be there in safety so that they can, when things get better in their country, they can return. So if that is true, it is really unfortunate to see this happening in South Africa, which is a neighboring country, which is a sister country, but also it's a country that has the responsibility in relation to Mozambique and the upholding of the rule of law, democracy and human rights in the region.
Doctor, your views on the role that Sadc could be playing during this period now?
Sadc was here observing the election. We have shared all the information suggesting that because there was a massive fraud coming that would lead to post-election violence. All this, it is in Sadc's record, but they are nowhere near to be seen. Where is Sadc? The chairperson has issued a statement a week and a half ago, but what we are telling Sadc is that tomorrow the nation might experience its darkest day as the police is prepared to shoot, to kill good demonstrators. But Sadc is nowhere near to be seen. They are scheduling a meeting to take place in a week from today. But it is tomorrow that the people of Mozambique, they can be killed only by coming out in a democratic dispensation to demonstrate that they're not happy with the election.
Let's hope there'll be no loss of life. Doctor, thank you very much for your time this evening. That's Dr. Adriano Nuvunga. He is the director at the Center for Democracy and Human Rights in Mozambique. And of course, we'll try and get in touch with the government of Mozambique to find out exactly what are the plans for tomorrow's mass protest.